Residents are still cleaning up following the historic storm that hit Cape Cod this week. We have details about town cleanup efforts from DPW Director Dan Santos, Police Chief Paul McDonald, and Town Manager Tom Lynch. On this episode of Barnstable Today, it's Thursday, January 29th, 2015. I'm Sarah Mannel. DPW crews have been hard at work since the very beginning of Winter Storm Juno. Department of Public Works Director Dan Santos says crews began treating the roads Monday afternoon before the snow even began to fall.
And then moved right into a snow removal effort during the blizzard, and since then. This was a pretty overwhelming and epic storm as far as the conditions of the amount of snowfall, the rate at which the snow fell, and the drifting and the wind-blown snow created very difficult conditions to keep up. And in fact, under those conditions, you really can't keep up, and you do the best you can. And so our focus, really up until last night at about 5 o'clock, was on getting the mains passable, open, full width throughout town, getting material on them.
Santos says the focus for DPW crews turned to secondary roads last night.
And what's interesting about that effort is normally we use contractors for our secondary roads, but with this, the way this storm went, basically the equipment they use, because the roads are smaller dump trucks and pickup trucks and things like that. Well, they can't handle the snow. So we're having to open up every road, and as we've talked before, there are 1,700 roads in this town. 500 miles of roads. They'll have to be opened up with a backhoe or a front-end loader. And then once they break through, and then we're able to use some of the larger plows that we have. We don't have as many backhoes as we have plows, so it takes some time to do that. So our focus today, after having done that all night, is to continue opening up those secondary roads.
And Santos says crews should have most secondary roads cleared by this evening. He says the most challenging part of the storm was the heavy winds and rate of snowfall.
It's created conditions that even the largest machines we have had trouble. And you think we're just plowing snow, but once you get snow on the ground and you get a wall of snow in front of you, even these big trucks, they can start slipping and they have trouble. And so we've had to bail out a lot of trucks. And the one thing we haven't talked about, which during the height of the storm and maybe 12 hours after was a real problem, was abandoned and disabled vehicles. I myself, in the middle of the storm, and I'm sorry, I forget, the days blend together, and I'm forgetting what day that was. It may have been Tuesday. I was stuck for 4 hours. I could not. I was over by the airport on 28 with many other cars. Could not see literally the hand in front of my face. It was unbelievable. And there was just car after car in the same situation. And the only way I was able to get out was eventually we sent a front-end loader down there to start picking away and getting access to vehicles so they could get out of the way. State police was there. In fact, there was a state police officer there with a shovel helping me. I mean, it was really kind of do whatever you can do. So we were able to do that. We work closely with the police department. At certain times, they had access to tow wreckers and tow trucks, and they had vehicles move. But when it was really bad on some of the main roads, particularly the routes in and out of Cape Cod Hospital, which is really our priority to keep those open and passable, we were forced to have to actually move cars ourselves with the equipment. Now, we don't like to do that, and we try to do it as gently as possible, but sometimes you just got to get them out of the way so you can get the road open.
And public safety, of course, is the #1 concern when it comes to dealing with storms of this kind. Barnstable Police Chief Paul McDonald says it was a difficult 3 days for the department.
We had numerous calls, most of the individuals being stranded in their motor vehicles. We did have a travel ban in effect that went in effect on Monday night at midnight, and there seems to be an awful lot of people that just totally ignored that travel ban, and that caused all kinds of problems, particularly down in Hyannis around the airport rotary. On Route 28, the stretch between the airport rotary and Yarmouth Road with all these wind and snow drifts coming across the airport, that roadway was virtually blocked. At one time, we counted as many 18 vehicles stranded at the airport rotary. And I can't tell you how many vehicles over the past couple of days we have towed, probably close to 100 vehicles. And the other big thing was the shelter. Monday, the shelter was staffed at 5 o'clock. The shelter opened at 6:30. As soon as the shelter opened, we had the first couple of individuals that showed up, and they took some proactive steps. Rather than wait for the power to go off or the roads were impassable, they just decided to go down to the shelter. During the height of the storm, we had approximately 35 individuals at the shelter, and I believe we had 9 pets, dogs, cats, and a lizard, all stayed at the shelter. Yesterday, as DPW did their work and they started clearing the streets, we were down to only a couple of hundred houses without power. Everybody in the shelter, we checked their residence. They all had power. Then we gave them all transportation back to their homes. And by 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon, we were able to close the shelter, and everybody was home. And I realized during the last couple of days, a lot of people, they have been inconvenienced, but as a result of the storm, nobody got injured, nobody got hurt. So all in all, it was a historic event, but I think everybody did a pretty good job. They were inconvenienced. I'll give them that, but it went pretty well.
And McDonald advised motorists to continue to drive with extreme caution. Public safety was also Town Manager Tom Lynch's focus during the storm. Lynch says during the storm, making sure emergency vehicles have clear paths to the hospital was of great importance.
I believe many people may know now that we keep crews available just for our police and fire departments. So if they need to respond to an area that hasn't been plowed, a secondary road, or even one of our main roads that needs attention, they're there to jump in and help to be sure that if someone has called 911 with a medical emergency, we're out there, can clear the way, and that the ambulance can safely transport the individual back down to the hospital. When Dan Santos was talking about the plan and how they wanted to go 12 on and 12 off and work that out, he and I got together on that and took a tour on Wednesday morning, and it was just coming down Main Street, Hyannis, to see the height of the drifts.
Yes.
We were out clearing sidewalks, trying to open up for businesses that were going to be able to open, but you began to get the magnitude of snow that was being moved. We're driving down by the Steamship Authority, and the NSTAR trucks were backed all the way out of the Steamship Authority along South Street, practically to Pleasant Street.
Right.
Certain cars going into the passing lane had difficulty getting by. That was backing up. So I was able to call the number for the police. Sergeant Sweeney answered, got someone right on it. But the sort of thing that were an emergency vehicle coming down at that particular point in time, we needed that response, right away. So the police were very good about doing all of that.
And Lynch also applauded the Department of Public Works for their tireless work to clear the roadways following the storm. Well, tonight there are no meetings here at Town Hall, but be sure to tune into our hour-long news program Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 7 a.m. On tomorrow's show, we will have our weekly arts and culture segment. We'll find out how Sandy Neck is faring after the storm with Beach Park manager Nina Coleman, and we'll have all the news and information you need. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mannel.